Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala!
Ocala, baby, what makes you look so good? Ocala, baby, what makes you look so good?
Well, it might be Kelly Hart. It might be Kelly Hart that makes Ocala look so good. I don't know. She makes the studio look a lot better, that's for sure. Kelly is here to host Ocala Magazine Radio again in John Sotomayor's stead, I guess is what you say, right? It's a funny word, stead. And of course, she's here with some guests, so we're going to have another great Ocala Magazine Radio show. Good morning, Kelly.
Yes, good morning.
How you
Good
doing?
morning. I do have some really phenomenal guests with me this morning, and I want to get right into it because I want to give as much time to the topic this morning, which is the topic of tethering. In studio with me this morning is Linda Norman. She is a local businesswoman, a member of the Dog Classification Board for Marion County, and she is on the board with the Humane Society. And then I also have with me Bruce Fischelo, and he's the executive director of the Humane Society. And the reason that they are here this morning is to talk about the tethering laws in Marion County. And just this past Tuesday, they went before the county commissioners hoping to seek some kind of ban on this law. And I want to give them an opportunity first to describe to our listeners what tethering means and what that involves.
You want me to
Yes,
go
Linda,
first?
please.
Okay, well, basically, what we're trying to stop, let me just start with what we're not trying to stop. We are not trying to ban tying a dog in your yard altogether. If you want to be outside washing your car or gardening or mowing your grass and you want your dog outside and you don't have a fence, we think that's perfectly fine to tether your dog so your dog can have some outside time. What we are targeting is people who keep their dogs chained continuously. Basically, they tie them up and they forget them. Mm-hmm. And that can be with a chain, a rope, we've seen wire, we've seen unbelievable myriad of things that are used to tie up dogs. Basically, it's just to station them there, and that's where they live, that's where they rot.
So much so that I understand there's often times where these dogs' collars are embedded. They've been there so long and unattended to for so long.
Absolutely. Jay Perrette mentioned that the other day at the county commission meeting. She, for 30 years, she was the cruelty officer here in Marion County, and she said that she handled over 400 cases of embedded collars. And so, that is just neglect and chaining go hand in hand, and that's a typical example of what can happen to a dog that's out there. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg, really.
And as it stands currently in Marion County, it is illegal for a person to have their dog on a chain, unattended, for any length of time.
Yes.
Wow.
In 2011, we did go before the county commission during a workshop and presented them with evidence that this was not a good thing to do. It's both a public safety issue as well as a cruelty issue. And at that time, they were not willing to take it up into a public hearing, but they did say we're willing to do some compromising. And let me tell you what those compromises were. At that time, the length of the chain could be only 3 times the length of the dog. We had that liberalized to 5 times the length of the dog. Bruce was there, too, in that meeting.
Wow.
We requested that at least there be a swivel hook on either end. Prior to that, dog could be totally stationary. So now there's a swivel hook on either end. Okay. So 5 times the length of the dog from the tip of the nose to the tip of the tail. That's basically it. They have to have a buckle type collar. They can't have, spike collars and things like that while they're out there, although I've seen that. Mm-hmm. That was as much as they were willing to go. And unfortunately, that means that we still have dogs suffering out there on short chains. I mean, 5 times the length of the dog. Okay, that was better than nothing. They did also agree to no more than 1/16 the weight of the dog. And the reason for that is because of those big logging chains that people like to put on poor pit bulls that are left out there. So, and I'll tell you, animal control has done a good job of enforcing that, but I think that was a lot more difficult to enforce than unattended tethering. If you want to jump in here anytime.
Well, you mentioned that it was a public safety issue and an animal cruelty issue, but I want to touch mostly on the public safety because, the obvious reasons for animal cruelty. I mean, it's hot, they're outside, they're unattended to. Chances are if they're stuck on a chain all day long, all night long, they're not getting the medical treatment that they need, they're not getting bathed, they're not getting even just the attention to make them socialized that they need to be a domesticated, well-tended to animal. But for the sake of public safety, what are some of the statistics or things they have found that are issues with these dogs that are on chains constantly?
Well, the Centers for Disease Control says that a chained dog is 3 times more likely to bite. Okay. However, there's another part of that quote that is not commonly known. The rest of that quote is that for children under the age of 12, that rises to 5.4 times more likely to bite. Wow. And we have evidence of that right here in Marion County. 3 years ago, Violet Haker, she was a 3-year-old little girl whose family owned bulldogs. And there were 4 bulldogs, 3 of them female, and 1 unneutered male that were chained to trees. And there was a pen around there. So they must have, the parents must have had some inkling that there was a danger there because they kept a pen around there. The mother went into the house for just a few minutes to use the bathroom and asked the teenage son to please keep an eye on the little girl. Well, in that split second, she wanders into the pen, gets tangled into the chain, and what happens to a chained dog who cannot get away? The fight or flight response kicks in. Okay, he can't get away, and here he's got this little girl screaming. That will frighten a dog who is unsocialized, and since they can't get away, there's only one option left, and that's to attack. That is the most brutal way to die that I can ever imagine, and I cannot imagine the pain of those parents.
Right.
But that's why I say that an ordinance is the beginning of education. Had that not been legal, okay, they would have been educated by animal control that that's not legal, and for the reasons that we state, because it is a public safety issue and it is a cruelty issue. Then at that, that wouldn't happen. That little girl would be alive today because they would have found some other way to maintain those dogs, or maybe they would have decided that they didn't need to breed them to begin with.
Absolutely. Well, my thought, and we were talking about this earlier, is if you can't tend to your dogs and if you don't have time to spend with them and give them all the attention that they need, why have them? To chain them and leave them in the backyard or tied to a tree or creating this one path, and that's all the room that they have to play and run, if you will, as much as you can on a chain, why even bother having them? And my thought is the only person or people that I could see being opposed to this type of ban on this law would be those people that keep their dogs chained up. And reading the article that was in the Star Banner yesterday after the meeting on Tuesday, I became infuriated that there was not even any discussion over it. And I'll let you talk about that meeting. What I did want to mention is I contacted the 4 county commissioners, the Kathy Bryant, Stan McLean, Carl Zalak, and Earl Arnett, and touched base with them yesterday because I did want to give them an opportunity to either call in or respond so that it wasn't a one-sided issue, and to get some justification as to why, when this was presented to them, they turned it down. And of course, I only heard back from Kathy explaining that they were in a meeting this morning and wouldn't be able to call in or anything. But that was it. That was the only response I got. So I am curious to know why it was such a dead-end issue for them.
if I could interject here.
Sure.
I'm Bruce, the Executive Director of the Humane Society. It was after these presentations were made, and they were amazing. I was afraid there would be too much redundancy where the same things would be said, but there were so many different issues that came up that showed that dog chaining is inherently wrong. And some of them, it just was an incredible scene. And then there was a little bit of time before the commission. This was an open forum period, and then it was I'll never forget. It was number 12A, and when they got to number 12A, Commissioner David Moore asked for it to have a public forum where the public could just talk about the issue, and there was a silence you would not believe. What do they say? A deafening silence. There was a deafening silence. It absolutely shocked me, and I know fairly well these county commissioners, and I have a pretty good relationship with these people. But I couldn't believe that they, after hearing these people, that they didn't even say, well, listen, we understand this, but the big thing I always heard, it's an enforcement issue. And then on Channel 20, actually, the TV station afterwards, I saw the recap, and I saw Stan McLean give a brief synopsis of what he thought. And he was saying we have enough laws on the books. Well, their own person. Actually, there was one person who explained about that there are less calls in the counties that have adopted because you don't have the nuisance of these dogs on chains. There are much less calls for it's a money saver. It's not a money waster. It's a money saver to get these dogs. Not that we're just worried about the money, but we're worried about the right thing to do.
Well, we do have a call, so let's go to them and see what their thoughts are. Hello.
Good morning. You're on the air. Oh, they hung up.
Oh, they hung up.
They hung up.
Okay, well, maybe they'll call back. If you're listening, call back. We do encourage anybody that has any thoughts or questions on this to give us a call. It's 351-2828. I also saw where there's
that's a different number.
Oh, is that a wrong number?
Yeah.
Okay, well, don't call that number.
It's 622-WOCA.
Okay, 622-WOCA. My apologies.
That's your secret number.
That's my secret. Well, it's not a secret anymore. Oh, man.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to mention that you were talking about some counties that had already banned this law, and I had the statistic there. There's 11 Florida counties that have banned chaining in 19 states, so why not Marion County?
Exactly. I mean, we're not recreating inventing the wheel. We're not inventing the wheel here. We are. I said that there's a domino theory, a domino effect going on, and it's a really good domino effect that counties one at a time are realizing that this is the right thing to do, is to ban dog chaining. I mean, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Lake, our county right to our sister county pretty much right to same demographics almost.
Sure.
Just to the south.
Well, we have a call. Let's take that call really quickly. Hello, good morning.
Hello, this is Kathy. Hi.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, everybody. I have a question. What about this law is that it is not covered by just the general cruelty to animals that you would, observe and report?
State the question one more time, Kathy.
What about this new law about the anti-chaining? It's not covered by just general cruelty to animals law that you would report if you saw cruelty to animals.
Oh, well, basically,
Should be.
The fact that the dog can be tethered in itself is a cruelty issue, and it is currently legal. There is also an issue with enclosures, which we haven't even talked about, that should be illegal. Currently, if you wanted to, and there are people that have done this, you could put your dog outside in a crate and put a plywood top over it, and that is considered a legal structure or a legal shelter. That's a cruelty issue.
Right, the heat and everything, definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm just wondering, is there any a chance for misinterpretation? Somebody tethers their dog for a couple minutes, they go into the house, and the dog is legally tethered. I mean, there ought to be some kind of a distinction between just common sense, reasonable, and cruelty.
True. First of all, animal control, their first approach is always education. They're not going to be looking for the person who goes into the house for a split second and comes back out. But I do want to remind you that the case that we talked about just a minute ago, little Violet Haker, she was absolutely, it was just a few minutes and she was dead. Okay.
Right.
So, the public safety issue does remain, and that's why we are asking for no unattended tethering. Only attended.
Okay.
Right.
But everything is up for interpretation with the law. I mean, everything. I mean, if somebody's walking on the street, whether it's disorderly conduct or not disorderly conduct, an officer of the law has to make decisions like that. Everything is always up for interpretation. We're not asking to go overboard and be ridiculous about this. We expect our local officers to realize where there is a problem, and let's correct the problem. The 24/7 unattended tethering is inhumane.
I'm sorry. Was that the position of the county commissioners, that enough laws already exist? Was that their response to this?
That was what Stan McLean said to Channel 20 News. Unfortunately, none of the commissioners that were silent, let me just make a distinction here. David Moore actually was sponsoring this ordinance, and he is all for it, and he made the motion. But the rest of them, there was no explanation at all during the meeting. So we were dumbfounded because we had to know where to go with that. Now, subsequent to that, there's been some conversations, and I do have to mention that Kathy is the chairwoman, and as the chairwoman, she actually could not second the amendment. I mean, not the amendment. What's the word? Thank you. The motion. Thank you.
Thank you for your call, Kathy. We're going to clear the lines in case someone else wants to call. But thank you so much. I think that, the issue is because it's not illegal to do it, there are no guidelines. However, if they made it illegal, there could still be guidelines in place. For example, when you're washing your car, of course it's okay. They're attended to. Or if you left them unattended, for a certain period of time, or those would all be things that could easily be put into place. But now, because it's just legal, there's no guidelines. It could just be left open-ended to leave your dog there for as long as you want, and there's no weather conditions. A good dog owner, somebody with good common sense that's an actual good dog owner, would use their better judgment. You wouldn't have to, I don't think, enforce to those people what is appropriate and inappropriate behavior for their pets. It's the people who have these animals. Why they have them, I do not know. If they cannot tend to them and give them the proper treatment that they deserve, even though they're animals, they deserve the same, they deserve medical attention, treatment, bath, flea preventative, and all of these things. So why they have them, I do not know. But these are the people that we're concerned about, because they're not good pet owners. They don't have that good common sense. They chain their dog, clip them to some clothesline, and there they live, forever in a day.
Yeah, and there are some people that think, well, hey, the dog is my property, because legally they are property. But if you look at our animal cruelty laws, they actually go back to 1641 to a document called the Body of Liberties, which surprised me when I did the research. That's where animal cruelty laws started, and basically that was based on the commercial value of an animal back then. However, through the years, there's been recognition that cruelty laws were put into place. One, because the animal itself cannot defend itself, okay? They can't talk. They can't come on your radio show and talk for themselves and say, hey, I really don't like it out there. Do something. Absolutely. Okay? But also because it offends the sensibilities of good citizens. The 1980 Law Review said, and I don't have the quote with me, but basically the gist of it was that cruelty laws were based on the fact that people's sensibilities were outraged at the sight of animal cruelty. Okay, this is an accepted tenet of animal cruelty laws. There was a comment on the Ocala Star-Banner article that I read just this morning. Somebody was saying that, I have to listen to 2 chained-up dogs that live next door barking all night, and I'm told that the only way that she said, I've called animal control repeatedly. Well, they do not have the resources to go out repeatedly. So
Right.
they said the only thing that she can do is just document it and keep documenting it, and then,
Sure.
But that requires repetitive follow-up from animal control. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of money, taxpayer money. Why not just ban the practice? Dogs do not bark for no reason.
Exactly.
They bark
Well, that
when
was
they're
my
in
next
trouble.
thought. We're talking about the rights of the dog owners, but what about the rights of those neighbors? The neighboring community.
Absolutely.
If you have a dog that's unattended to and they get any kind of disease, even something as simple as fleas, that doesn't stay right in that pen. It becomes a community issue. It becomes an issue now of all the neighboring yards. If the dog is chained up, it's growling, it's barking, that becomes an issue of the neighboring homes and houses. So what about those people's rights as well? So the thing that bothers me most about this is I can see all kinds of reasons we should not allow tethering, but I can't think of one. And if anybody can, please call. I'd love to hear one good reason. But if I can't think of one good reason.
Well,
to
I can think of one good reason. How about you're a drug dealer and you want to have a dog chained by your front door? That's a good reason to have a dog chained. But is it legal? No, because so many criminal activities go along with dog chaining. It's amazing the amount of drug trade and illegal activities would be greatly reduced when you outlaw dog chaining, because they go hand in hand in a lot of areas. I'm not saying people only do it for that reason, but that is a very common practice when you see dogs chained at the front door.
Right, the
Also,
correlation between the
Yes.
Dog fighting. A lot of people in Marion County are not aware that Marion County is a hotbed for dog fighting.
Wow.
Yes. And and this is something I only became aware of in the last 2 years, especially since I got involved with the Humane Society Pet Parenting Program, where we're actually going out and getting dogs off of chains and helping people with fencing, etc. It's brought me into neighborhoods where I would never have gone before, and I became aware of the fact that there is widespread dog fighting. No, I've never seen a dog fight. You see the paraphernalia. You see what we call the raised boxes. The pit bull hotels is what we call them. They're plywood boxes on stilts where the dogs are bred. And they're all over this county. They are all over this county. Yes. That got me to investigating actual cases, and the more I dug, the more shocked I was. It's rampant in Marion County,
Well,
and
one of our
they all
speakers
chain.
excuse me, Linda, but one of our speakers that spoke for us was Chief Graham for the Ocala Police Department, and he gave an impassioned plea that we shouldn't chain dogs. Here's our chief law enforcement
I'm
officer
sure if
of our
anybody
city.
knows.
Yeah, right.
And our mayor. I mean, our mayor and our police chief both gave talks, and the mayor is in Ocala is the head of the police department. So here's two people that are in the know that's saying they know it's the right thing to
Absolutely.
ban tethering.
Well, and like you said earlier, Linda, the dogs can't come in and I wish they could. Wouldn't that be a great
that'd be
show?
awesome.
Talking
Yeah,
dogs,
yeah.
be rich.
I know what my dog always says.
They
so.
can't come in and they can't come in and talk for themselves. So it leaves people like you and people like me and people in the community to speak on their behalf. So what I want to do is make sure that before we leave, people know what to do, what they can do, if there's a way to sign a petition, if there's anything out there, how to contact the county commissioners. You know, sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the oil, so they say, and I can't imagine anybody knowing and hearing about this and not feeling some emotion behind it. Whether you're actively for it or actively against it, there comes a point where people need to speak up and get involved and say, listen, this is an issue that I've now learned about and I want to do something about it.
Well, we understand, and you have to understand that we understand there are a lot of issues going on in around the country and in this county, and the commissioners do have a lot on their plates. But the fact is, and this doesn't have to be the absolute number one issue of whether a person is good or bad, but this needs to be right at the top of a person's body of work. And just like you said, Kelly, what is the good reason? We've said that these other counties have admitted that there's less calls. It actually saves money. So what is the good reason for these people to take that stand? That's what we cannot understand, and that's what we had zero explanation. Not one word of explanation. Amazing.
Do we have a call?
Yes,
we have
we
a
do.
caller.
Good morning, you're on the air.
Hello?
I'm getting a lot of dead calls right there.
Those are those dogs.
Yeah.
They want to say something. They just can't.
It's such a high pitch, you can't hear it.
Well, I want you to give out the website. I also briefly, for people that really want a good visual of this issue, I want you to give them the link to your YouTube video that you created and put together, because if that doesn't put it into perspective, I don't know what does.
Yeah, just put in the search engine at YouTube, Chained Dogs of Marion County, but be sure you put the whole sentence in there, because otherwise it'll pull up another county. So Chained Dogs of Marion County, we documented what's actually going on in Marion County, and it is very visual. Also, if you want to contact the county commissioners, just go to the Marion County website. You can Google it, it'll come right up, Marion County, Florida, and go to the Board of County Commissioners page, and on that page there's a link to every single commissioner that you can directly email them.
Yes.
They need to hear from people.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you guys for being here and for
Thank
what
you,
you're
Kelly.
doing in the community.
Thank you, Larry.
And thank you, Larry.
Thank you. What we'll do, by the way, we'll take that video and we'll put it on the Facebook page so that it make it easier for some people.
Yes, I'm going to share it as well.
Yeah.
It's disturbing, but people need to see it. It's something. It really is.
Thank you.
We'd love to do a follow-up and see after the community starts getting involved, and so we look forward to another show.
Absolutely.
Clearly, the community's behind what you're doing. I mean, we did this
Yes.
show on this earlier this week, I guess, and big same kind of reaction you're getting right
Absolutely.
here. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay,
Good.
thank
Good show.
you.
We'll be right back.
The rock and roll is gonna suit my soul. I don't care about no rock and jive. Just wanna be your man tonight. Oh, Cali, baby, what makes you look so good? Oh, Cali, baby, what makes you look so good?
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.